Alright guys, welcome back to part 2 of day 4 of Commander Master Spoilers, and honestly, after the big rush of cards this morning in the first video I made, there haven't been as many drops, but there's definitely still some really good noteworthy ones, so let's get into it. Alright, thanks so much for checking out the channel and the videos. If you guys didn't see my previous video talking about the stuff from this morning, you can check that video out. I have them all like interlinked together with like cards, and they're all on the playlist, so you guys can check it out with all the coverage. But yeah, we're gonna just pretty much jump right into this, and I said in the last video, like, I'm fully in on this set now. I think they've done a great job of kind of pulling it back together after a bit of a slow start. There was a crazy amount of stuff in the set from a value perspective, so it's awesome. I'm really hoping that a lot of stuff will become more affordable, which is just good for the community and good for the game. That being said, first up is Perforos, God of the Forge. This is a great reprint. It is still a mythic. However, this is like almost $30, and it's a really, really strong card, especially in decks like Goblins or other token decks that can like spam a lot of stuff out. Funnily enough, I almost bought a copy of this the other day for a fun Minotaur tribal deck I'm building, and I was like, oh wait, just in case, because there were some rumblings of, other gods from Theros being in here, and, it turns out that we did get one. So I'm happy I waited. Obviously, I think the price on this guy will drop a bit, but a very, very good start to this, and a very good reprint. Next up, we've got Tooth and Nail. I've never heard of this card before, but it's actually kind of interesting. It was worth a decent bit. Nothing crazy, but it doesn't have a lot of prints, so I think that may have played a part. Being able to put up to 2 creatures from your hand onto the battlefield is certainly kind of interesting. It feels like a bit of a late-game finisher that can definitely be devastating in the right circumstances. So it's a solid card to get and a decent rare for sure. Azuri's Predation is not worth much at all. It was like 50 cents, so I don't really think it's that good of a reprint at all, but I think they're doing that whole cycle that it was part of, so I guess it's just sort of, one of those things to expect. Heavenly Blade Master, another card with some cool art, but again, worth like less than $1, so not the best rare, kind of another one of those bulkish rares, which there's definitely a good amount of them, like, don't get me wrong. But I think, as you sort of look at the set as a whole, if there's 130 rares and more than half of them are pretty good, I think that's a decent enough ratio to work with. The rare slot in this set really is kind of loaded at this point. Ogre Slumlord, actually not a bad card, but not worth anything, like 50 cents, so I don't know what this was in that it was, determinant of that reprint, but here we are. This is a big one, Grave Pact. This has been a while since this has been reprinted. It seems like a very good, very annoying card to have to play around. Cheapest, I think, was like $20, so it's definitely a good reprint, but this has probably been almost 10 years without a reprint, if not more, so very, very welcome reprint to get, more copies into circulation, and yeah, this is definitely a good one. Another hit for the Mythic slot, in my opinion. Kodamas Reach is just a common, but holy crap, this alternate artwork is amazing. I do think getting cards like Kodamas Reach and a bunch of the other uncommons and commons we've covered in the set means like you have a better chance of actually pulling some decent commons and uncommons, and just, the artwork is unbelievable. This card's always only like $1 or $2, but having more accessible copies of it to, for different decks and what have you, is never going to be bad, because they are going to go back up over time. Imps Mischief, never heard of this card either, but it was like $20, so that's interesting. It definitely seems like a really solid card in certain strategies, and I think it's a good reprint, just based on the fact that it has no reprints, and it was pretty pricey. I don't know how much play it actually sees, but it's definitely a good card, and if you're looking to get your hands on it, there's a more accessible version. This one is big. Value-wise, it wasn't the most expensive, but Steel Shaper's Gift is an incredibly good card for any equipment decks, and it was getting up there like $10 to $15 for like the cheapest version. This is a great reprint and just a great card in general that is awesome to see included in here. It does have a neat alternate art, which is kind of cool looking. I actually kind of like the original art better than the alternate art in this case, which is rare, but it's still pretty cool for what it's worth. So definitely a very noteworthy reprint for those of you playing those equipment decks, and I think a rare that'll be pretty solid to get, and maybe even pick up a couple extra copies of, just because there is a chance that it bottoms out. So far as Skyblade, good card. I think this was in Jumpstart, if I remember correctly, and it might have been in a Commander deck. I'm not 100% sure on that second part. After being printed initially in the Core Set 2021, it's a really good card. Not worth a lot, but it's okay. Probably like $5 to $6, so a decent reprint, but nothing to really write home about. Twilight Profit, another $8 to $10 card that only really had a list print. I do think on the Mythic end, this is probably going to be a less exciting card to pull. Not that it's bad, it's definitely good. It's just, I don't know whether its value is really going to stay. I think scarcity played a big part in this one. Perhaps the biggest hit of this round of reveals, Mirri Weatherlight Duelist. Just an absolutely wild card, and it did get a secret lair printing that is worth a good chunk of change with the awesome sort of like, I don't know, like a cat. It's a cat, but it's more like chibi style almost. I don't know how to describe it really. But this is a really good card that is not easy to get, and it was over 20 bucks. Very, very welcome reprint, and it looks awesome. I think the foil etched actually looks really nice on this. So I'm sure people will be excited to get their hands on that because that card is wild. Darwin Mutation is finally getting a foil printing for the first time ever. This has been in like commander decks scattered throughout, but it's getting a beautiful alternate art, and it's going to be obviously an option in foil, which is really cool because this card has never had a foil variant, and I just think it's a really good card for, you know, just as basically in the majority of white decks you can find space for this. It's probably worth playing. Zansha Sleeper Agent, not the most noteworthy, but it's okay. Just kind of another rare that I think is more meh than anything. Zakama Primal Calamity. This was actually like a $15, $20 card, which I did not know. And it was a mythic, so it was downshifted to rare, so it's not bad. It's a good reprint. The foil version of this card's over 30 bucks, so hopefully it'll just bring that price down a bit. It seems like they've really gone all in on the dinosaurs here, bringing a lot of them around. And finally, Sakiko, Mother of Summer. And this one is just the new artwork, which is really cool overall. And I think the card itself is not amazing or anything, but it only had one print in Betrayers of Kamigawa. And it was, you know, a desired card in some strategies if if you're playing a more budget build. So, you know, not a bad card, not a great rare, but it's still, you know, nice to see it finally get a print, like 12-ish years later, whenever Betrayers came out. I don't remember the exact date. So, yeah. So this round of reveals, of course, not the most noteworthy because I think a lot of that came this morning, but there are still some really, really good hits in here like Grave Pact and Mirri, as well as Perforos, and obviously Steel Shaper's Gift, I think, is a really good reprint. So a lot to like. I'm fully on board here. I'm really just deciding whether or not I want to like go heavy on the singles or still go with some product. I haven't really made that decision just yet. I think, you know, there's a little bit more for reveals. I don't know if we'll be getting anything else today. If we do, I'll cover it in a video tomorrow. And then, you know, obviously we have the Commander deck spoiler starting next week. So let me know in the comments down below what you guys think of these reveals and whether or not you are intrigued in any of them, what you plan on buying, and so forth. And overall, just, you know, where do you feel about this set as a whole now as we are 4 days into reveals? Be sure to like the video and subscribe. Click the bell icon if you want to stay notified for all up-to-date videos and content, and I'll catch you in the next video.